Hi, this is Dre Pass. I'm going to do another Nerd Science one. This one is called Could Daredevil Survive Hitman's Agent 47? Okay, this should be very interesting, okay, with Daredevil, because we don't even know if Hitman's coming after Daredevil, if he's going after Matt Murdock and doesn't know that he's Daredevil, because obviously, okay, so Matt Murdock may have an advantage. Okay, so anyway, let's get to it. Please hit the like, subscribe button. I'll be right back with my reaction. Okay, let me put my headphones on. Okay, here we go. Right now, go.
The courtroom on the 4th floor of Manhattan Civil Court is packed. Okay. 200 people, maybe more, on wooden benches and folding chairs. Whoa. The air thick with recycled breath and cheap cologne. At the defense table, a blind attorney named Matthew Murdock is mid-cross-examination. Calm, methodical, pulling apart a witness's testimony one quiet question at a time. Nobody is watching the court reporter in the 3rd row. Whoa. Nobody notices the briefcase resting against his leg or the coil of fiber wire in his jacket that he hasn't needed in years. Nobody sees him angle the muzzle through the lining of the bag and acquire the target. This is Mike. We're back for another awesome video for NerdScience. Leave your like, subscribe, and let's roll it. The man with the barcode tattoo has never missed a contract, and he's about to find out why this one's different. Whoa. Chapter 1. The courtroom kill and why it fails. 30 feet, clean sightline. The trigger breaks at exactly 4 pounds of pressure, the way it always does. Murdock is already moving. Not flinching, not ducking, moving like he knew the geometry of the shot before the firing pin dropped. The round punches through the air where his head was and buries itself in the mahogany paneling behind the witness box. The courtroom detonates into screaming. Bodies surge toward the exits. And somewhere in that chaos, a blind man in a business suit navigates 200 panicking people without touching a single one of them. Here's what happened. The bullet didn't announce itself with sound. Sound travels at roughly 343 meters per second, and at 30 feet, the round covers that distance in under 3 milliseconds, well ahead of the acoustic shockwave. What it did produce, before any of that, was a pressure displacement, a narrow column of compressed air pushed ahead of the projectile like a bow wave. That's what Murdock felt. Not the gunshot, the atmosphere moving wrong. His senses don't work like a human's. The trigeminal nerve, which runs across most of the face and registers touch, pressure, and temperature, is hypersensitive in Murdock to a degree that doesn't exist anywhere in documented neuroscience. Combine that with hearing that runs well below and above normal human range, somewhere between a dolphin and a bat in terms of bandwidth, and what you get is a continuous 3D pressure map of the environment around him, updating in close to real time. He's not seeing the room. He's feeling the room. Every surface, every body, every object that displaces air when it moves. The bullet's pressure wave was just another object moving fast in a space he'd already memorized. So he moved. Instinct, informed by data. What comes next is where the story gets interesting for the man with the briefcase. He's already in the crowd. Badge out, moving toward the exit. Standard exfil, clean. But he watches Murdock over his shoulder, and something makes him stop. The attorney is tracking him, not toward him, not visually, tracking the way a radar dish tracks. Head rotating fractionally, keeping a precise bearing on a target he can't possibly see. Through 200 people, across a room full of noise and movement and fear, never once looking. He files that. A professional doesn't feel fear, but he processes threat data accurately. And what he's just watched is not within the parameters of any human target he's encountered. Not even close. He walks out into the street. drops the briefcase in a trash can 3 blocks north and starts thinking. The question he's working with isn't whether the target is enhanced. That much is obvious. The question is whether a sensory system that sophisticated has a ceiling. Every system does. The contract comes down to finding his. Back in the courtroom, Murdoch straightens his tie, finds his cane, and goes very still for a moment. Then he pulls out his phone and dials. The lawyer is done for the day. Something else is taking over. Chapter 2. Suppressed, subsonic, and still not silent enough. By the time the red suit appears on the rooftops of Hell's Kitchen, the man hunting it has already changed his approach twice. The target is no longer a blind attorney navigating a crowded room. He's something else up here. Faster, looser, moving across wet concrete and rusted fire escapes like the rain doesn't exist. It's been 40 minutes since the courtroom. The weather is working in the hunter's favor. A hard rainstorm hammering every surface in a 4-block radius. White noise at scale. The kind of acoustic cover that would make most targets completely undetectable. He sets up 200 yards out. Second floor window. Suppressed pistol loaded with a subsonic 45 ACP. Rounds that stay below the speed of sound, eliminating the crack at the muzzle. On paper, this is close to invisible. In reality, it don't matter at all. Here's the thing about suppressors that most people get wrong. They don't make guns quiet. They make guns less loud. A standard unsuppressed gunshot registers at about 160 decibels. A suppressed subsonic round drops that to somewhere between 120 and 130 decibels. That's still louder than a jackhammer at close range. For a normal person, in a rainstorm, it disappears. For someone whose hearing operates at frequencies outside the human range entirely, the sound reduction is almost irrelevant. What Murdoch catches isn't the bang. It's the mechanical sequence inside the action. The trigger group moving, the firing pin releasing, the pressure spike at the muzzle before the round even clears the barrel. He's off the rooftop ledge before the bullet crosses half the distance. The shooter switches to a crossbow. No propellant charge, no mechanical ignition, near zero acoustic signature at the moment of release. The bolts travel at roughly 400 feet per second, slower than any firearm round. A textbook solution for a target with extraordinary hearing. Murdoch still dodges it. Not from the sound this time, from the bowstring. The stored tension in the limbs, the vibration through the riser at release. All of it radiates outward as a pressure event, the same way every other projectile does. Different mechanism, same physics. Something in the environment moved with intent, and that's enough. This is where the neuroscience becomes genuinely strange. Normal human reaction time sits between 150 and 250 milliseconds, measured from stimulus to motor response. At those numbers, dodging a crossbow bolt at distance is borderline impossible even if you see it leave the bow. At those numbers, dodging a crossbow bolt at distance is borderline impossible even if you see it leave the bow. What Murdoch appears to be doing is something different. Not reacting to the projectile, but preloading the motor response before the shot fires. The brain's premotor cortex can prime a movement before conscious thought catches up. And if his environmental sonar is feeding him continuous positional data on every object in range, it's possible he's building predictive models fast enough to move before the threat is technically a threat. He's not faster than a bolt. He's earlier than one. The crossbow goes into a dumpster. The conclusion is clean and uncomfortable. Ranged engagement is finished. Every projectile, regardless of speed or noise profile, announces itself through the medium it travels in. Air is not a neutral space for this target. Air is the weapon he uses to see, which means the only remaining option is to take that advantage away entirely. And to do that, you have to get close enough that getting close to Daredevil is not a tactical upgrade. It's a different problem entirely. The setup is clean. A staged distress call, a man's voice recorded, played through a cheap speaker wedged behind a dumpster in a dead-end alley off 9th Avenue. The kind of sound that pulls a vigilante off the rooftops. The alley is dark, the walls close, the ambient noise low enough that a careful man can move through it without registering above the baseline. He's already inside when the red suit drops from the fire escape above and lands without a sound. What happens in the next 4 seconds is instructive. Daredevil doesn't scan the alley. He doesn't hesitate at the entrance or check corners the way a sighted fighter would. He just stops moving, and the quality of his stillness changes. The way a predator changes when it crosses a scent trail it doesn't recognize. Because what he's running against right now is essentially a live polygraph, and the readout is wrong. In the comics, Murdoch's hearing is sensitive enough to register a heartbeat from across a room. Not just the rate, but the texture of it. Fear produces adrenaline, which raises cortisol, which affects skin conductance and causes micro tremors in the large muscle groups. Anxiety has a sound. So does deception, aggression, and pain. He uses this constantly, in courtrooms and alleyways both, to read people before they act. 47 doesn't produce that signal. His atomic nervous system, the product of decades of secret gene augmentation, built from the DNA of 5 French Foreign Legion veterans who went on to become the deadliest crime lords and terrorists of their generation, doesn't respond to threat the way a human body does. His heart rate under active combat conditions barely climbs. Estimates put it in the low 50s, where a normal person under identical stress would be pushing 130. No adrenaline surge, no cortisol spike, no micro tremors. His body treats a kill like a Tuesday, so Murdoch picks up nothing. And nothing, it turns out, is its own kind of signal. Because every living thing in that alley has a biological rhythm. The rat near the dumpster has one. The man he heard calling for help should have one. What's standing 12 feet behind him has a heartbeat that's too slow, too even, and completely without fear. That reads one thing. Not human, apex. He spins. 47's already moving. The exchange is brutal and fast. 47 has the physical edge. Longer reach, engineered muscle density, reflexes tuned well past the human ceiling, and a lifetime of conditioning that began before he could walk. He lands the first 2 strikes clean. Murdoch absorbs them in ways that shouldn't be possible and counters from angles that don't correspond to where the attacks came from. Because he's not reading where the fists are. He's reading where the shoulders telegraphed him 300 milliseconds earlier. Weight shift, muscle tension, the minute change in air pressure as a limb loads before it extends. By the time a punch arrives, he's already framing the response. 47 takes a billy club across the ribs, a knee to the thigh, and an elbow that snaps his head back hard enough to blur his vision. He pulls the flashbang from his jacket, throws it at the ground between them, and moves through the blind spot while the burst is still ringing. He makes it out, barely. Walking 2 blocks north with 2 cracked ribs and a split lip, he runs the data. Murdoch's senses aren't a defense. They're a prediction engine, reading intent before it becomes action. You can't beat a prediction engine by being faster. You have to feed it the wrong data entirely. Chapter 4. Engineering the blind spot. The problem with fighting a sensory system is that you can't outrun it. You can't hide from it. Every approach so far, distance, suppression, darkness, controlled physiology, got read and countered because the system was still functioning. So the only real move left is to break the system itself. In the comics, Murdoch's amplified senses have a documented failure mode, overload. Pump enough input through a channel built for extraordinary sensitivity and it stops being an advantage. It becomes a liability. The same wiring that lets him map a room through air pressure will transmit catastrophic noise at catastrophic volume straight into the parts of his brain responsible for spatial orientation. Enemies who learned this secret have put him flat on the ground doing exactly this. Infrasound sits below 20 hertz, under the floor of what human ears can consciously register. You don't hear it, you feel it. as nausea, disorientation, and a creeping loss of spatial coherence. LRAD systems, the long-range acoustic devices used in crowd control and military applications, already exist as real hardware capable of producing focused sound at frequencies and amplitudes that incapacitate normal people at range. Scale the amplitude for a target whose hearing operates several orders of magnitude beyond human baseline, and you're not inducing discomfort. You're inducing a neurological shutdown. The radar sense doesn't get fuzzy. It gets static. He picks an abandoned warehouse 2 blocks east of the river. 3 days of intermittent surveillance from a rented apartment across the street confirmed Daredevil sweeps it on patrol every 48 hours, checking it the way he checks every dead space in his territory. Out of habit, out of ownership. 4 acoustic emitters go in through a broken loading bay door, mounted at floor level, angled to create overlapping pressure fields across the interior. They're wired to a remote trigger. No timers. Nothing that activates prematurely. The second layer is olfactory. Daredevil's smell-based mapping runs parallel to his pressure sense, cross-referencing both to build a composite picture of a space. Flood that channel with a single overpowering compound, not a toxin, just a saturating scent at concentration levels that would register as physically painful to a nose with his sensitivity, and the cross-reference breaks down. 2 systems offline simultaneously means no composite. No composite means no map. He's inside the warehouse, in the rafters, perfectly still, when the red suit enters through the skylight. For about 4 seconds, nothing changes. Murdoch lands clean, scans the space the way he always does, and starts moving through it. Then the emitters kick on, and the 4 seconds after that are very different. His pace stutters first, a stumble, a hand going to the wall, then his head drops, the way someone's head drops when the floor stops being where it was. The edges of the room are gone from his perspective. Then the middle, he's swinging at geometry that no longer resolves. 47 comes down from the rafters without a sound. No weapon that moves through the air. No projectile, no pressure wave, no firing mechanism, just a coil of fiber wire from his jacket. The oldest tool he owns, the one he hadn't needed until now. And the specific knowledge that carotid compression causes cerebral hypoxia in 8 to 15 seconds, less if the subject is already physiologically compromised. Murdoch grabs the arm, finds air, grabs again. The radar sense is looking for a position that keeps relocating because it never accurately mapped it in the first place. He goes down swinging. That part matters. He doesn't stop fighting until the hypoxia does it for him. The contract closes.
Mother effer.
47 walks out through the loading bay, drops the emitters into the river, and doesn't look back. Daredevil's senses weren't the obstacle. They were the blueprint. Every frequency he could hear, every signal he could read became a door once you knew which key jammed the lock. Subscribe if you want to see which other street-level fighters could survive this contract, because that list is genuinely short.
Oh, man. Okay. That was messed up. Daredevil dying like that. Come on. Yeah, okay, come on. 8047 is okay, but I come on. I have again. He can just tell by looking at that. Please, I don't like that. I didn't like that one. I got a soft spot in my heart for Daredevil, so that's why I don't kind of buy that. But come on, and messing with his radar. That's happened in comics and stuff, where they jam his radar and stuff. When somebody figures out that he's blind and they jam his radar and then he's effed. But nah, I don't like Daredevil getting in the best hand too. Batman survived Agent 47, so I don't see why Daredevil couldn't. But yeah, like I said, he used they explained it with the science. He jammed his senses up. And he got close enough to disrupt this. So there's that. I still don't like Daredevil getting beat like that. But anyway, let me know what you think of this Daredevil not surviving agent, Hitman's Agent 47. What do you think of it? Feel free to leave comments down below. I'll leave a link to Mr. NerdScience, to NerdScience's channel in the description box so you can check it out for yourself. Also a link to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. Also a link to my other channel, probably using the pins, but you check that out as well. Also I have a link down below to my merchandise store. I have 2 designs. I have the spherical circles. I have the Trade Pastor logo. I have it on t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, water bottles, teddy bears for men, women, unisex. Follow link, it'll take you to my merchandise store. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel, and I truly appreciate it. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you know when I upload new content to this channel. And this is Trade Pastor saying so long and take care.